I'll do a quick, perfect. I'm going to do a quick background on Corporation for a Skilled Workforce. So CSW is a Michigan-based nonprofit that has been around for, I think, 32 years. And we really envision a society in which every person is able to earn a family-sustaining income, achieve upward mobility, and adapt to the future. So we partner with a lot of different organizations across the country, but really a lot of our work is here in Michigan to really advance policy and practice that allows for low-wage workers, particularly workers of colors and those otherwise excluded from opportunity to achieve economic mobility. So we have facilitated in partnership with Aspen Institute, the Workforce Leadership Academy here in Detroit 2 other times. And so we're really excited to come back here and have the opportunity to do so again. You can see the different strategy areas that we focus on. I lead the Improving Practices and Outcomes team, which is really focused on advancing the policy and practice for workforce practitioners and organizations. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to myself to really quickly go over the Local Advisory Council. So for those that might not be familiar, the Local Advisory Council is really tasked with helping to guide the Advisory Council to make sure it's rooted within the needs of the Metro Detroit workforce ecosystem, suggest topic areas that the Workforce Leadership Academy should focus on, and really help spread the word around it so that we have a robust pool of fellows that really represent all aspects of workforce here. So you can see the names of the folks that have been a part of the Local Advisory Council. It touches on folks in workforce development boards. You have some funders, you have some employers, and so a lot of different organizations that are at the table helping to guide us. So now, without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Dee, who's going to talk a little bit more about Aspen.
Thank you, Chioke and Alex. Thank you for managing the slides. And Chioke and Alex, if I start to ramble and we're running out of time, just tell me to move on, because I can start to go on and on about this, because I really feel blessed to have worked on these academies for so long, and I'm kind of a fangirl myself. I am a senior fellow with the Aspen Institute. My name is Dee Wallace, and the Aspen Institute is a global nonprofit that was founded in 1949 with the aim of supporting a fair, just, and equitable society. We work in dozens of policy areas, from health to the environment to the media. And the Workforce Leadership Academies live in our Economic Opportunities Program. And on the next slide, you can see that the Economic Opportunities Program is aimed at supporting low and moderate income people in America in being able to reach economic opportunities in this country, own their own businesses, get access to quality jobs, and advance with economic stability for their families. We have been investing in workforce development and economic opportunity ecosystems and their leaders for a couple of decades now, because we've recognized that the people who lead the organizations across the ecosystems where the rubber hits the road. And so we have decided years ago to advance this academy model. And on the next slide, you can see that the academy is our strategy to invest in the leaders who make these organizations work across that broad ecosystem of organizations engaged in economic opportunity, workforce development, job training programs, community colleges, capacity building organizations, sector and business and industry associations, research organizations, all of those organizations that have to work in collaboration with each other in order to build a nimble ecosystem to respond to labor market and economic changes for the people that we care about. And so we've been conducting workforce leadership academies for national and at the local level for a number of years now. On the next slide, you'll see what we call the swirl of themes that the Academy addresses, with personal leadership at the center of it, at the core of it, and supported by themes such as improving employer practice and metrics and meaning. The Academy brings together leaders across the workforce ecosystem in about a year-long peer learning cohort, 18 to 24 leaders who are interested and eager to expand and develop relationships, personal relationships and professional relationships across the ecosystem, and to look at their own organization's work to improve their own practice, and are interested in applying a systems change and a racial equity lens to the work that they're doing, who are interested in developing themselves personally as leaders, and very importantly, interested in taking on ownership of the local workforce ecosystem and choosing to work collaboratively to continue to strengthen that workforce ecosystem throughout the years of economic changes and challenges, so that the people that we care about still have access to economic opportunity. In that year-long peer learning community, on the next slide, you'll see a description of the way that we're intentional about how we structure the time. And so we think it's important to connect local leaders to other leaders around the country. And so in this year-long experience, you'll be working with and meeting other innovators from around the country who will come in and share their lessons with you. We structure away time through overnight retreats at the beginning and end of the Academy year, so that you can step away both figuratively and literally from the office and just step out of the fray and get some time to think reflectively, pause, think strategically going ahead, and get some respite, because I mean, this work is hard. Um, and you deserve the chance to be treated to a nice meal and in a nice space to celebrate yourselves as well as the systems work that you're doing. And so we structure the time that way, with bookends of those retreats, and in the interim, sessions and labs that you work together. We provide you with tools and assessments to apply during your Academy year, as well as going forward. You have the opportunity to engage in a 360 leadership practices inventory for your own personal leadership development. And a core piece is that you engage in a collaborative learning lab, where you define the vision you have for the local ecosystem, you identify some systems changes that you would like to see working towards that vision, and you self-select the groups that you want to work in to achieve that vision. On the next slide is just an example of, you can see where we've had other local academies through the years. This year, with the generous support of Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, Weinberg, Walmart, and others, we were able to issue an actual RFP for communities to compete to be in this cohort. And there are 8 communities that will be conducting academies alongside you in this year. And the fellows tell us that what we hope to happen is happening. In an intense evaluation that we've had recently, on the next slide, you can see that fellows are saying that they're working collaboratively in new ways. They're applying a race equity lens and approaching racial equity in new ways. They are, just by virtue of being in this community together, identifying, like with the mayor's office and the housing authority, that they're working with the same community of people and aligning their work in new ways. Organizations are changing their own policies and practices in order to improve the quality of their own jobs. And people say 100% of the folks who are asked about their collaborative learning labs, they say that they really do feel like they can have an impact on the local systems. And if you'll go to the next slide, Chioki, just a couple of quotes of what people are saying. They pull out that in this cohort year, people are having their views challenged about how they look at the system, and how they're working with the populations that we care about. They're building relationships, they're building new partnerships, and they can really see a future with new projects and new partnerships going forward. And if you go, Chioki, to the slide with the profile page, one more, and the next one. Just to, as I close here, just to make the point that as you are accepted into the Academy, you become recognized as fellows of the Economic Opportunities Program with the Aspen Institute, and you will have your profile on the Aspen Institute site, along with the other leaders who have gone through this kind of experience around the country. And if you go to the next slide, excuse me, I'll pause here, see if there are any questions. Okay. What you? Oh, let's see. I do see one with Kimberly. Excuse me.
Hey, Kimberly, if you want to unmute, you're welcome to.
Thank you. I'm curious if there is a target for like where a person is in their career for like what you're specifically looking for. Is there a particular area in the ecosystem that you are looking for representation on? Is like, can you give a little bit more information about like what you think makes an ideal candidate for the program?
Dee, do you want to take this one?
That's a great question, and we're going to have, excuse me, a little more detail about that in just a second. We're going to go over the profile of the ideal candidate. And so representation from across that broad ecosystem is what's important. We'll be looking for a cohort that represents kind of a microcosm of the ecosystem.
And just as an example, in my session, you had people that worked at the DESC and people who worked at a community college. You had people that were at an adult basic education shop of 3. So it really was some employers, some people in occupational training programs, some people at more intermediaries that did research. So it really was like a full range. But I think the unique part about it was because everyone came to it from a different perspective, the input was so different, right? And so it allowed you to really think, like, I hadn't thought about the economic development impact of that, or like, I don't really use labor market information in my work because that's just not something that we've had to do. Like, let me dig into that. And how does that actually relate to serving adults who have basic skills gaps? And to Dee's point about partnership, there was actually an instance where an adult basic education provider and an occupational training provider, they ended up partnering after the academy to start providing some basic, some kind of like on-ramp program. So I think unique things happen because of all these different people coming to the situation, or coming to the fellowship.
And in terms of where you are in your career, Chioki, you might want to say a little bit more about this, but it's really people who are in some type of decision-making role within their organizations. And you may be earlier emerging or mature in your leadership, but people who can represent their organizations and are able to actually implement and execute system changes within their own organizations.
Well, Chioki, do you want to go to the next slide? Great. So I'm going to speak a little bit about opportunity, and then Kimberly, through the remaining slides, also just seek to answer your question about who it is that we're looking for, where they're coming from, level of experience, and all of that. So really want to talk about the really unique benefits of participation, of being afforded space to kind of step away from the daily grind and focus on personal and professional development. And really the goals here of this ecosystem, and the goals of Aspen and convening this academy, are the personal and professional leadership and development of really up to the 24 fellows who are going to be participating. And this is, I can say based on my own experience that, I was someone who I didn't learn in a typical classroom environment. I really was someone who started to excel when I got into the workplace and could actually pressure test and apply some of the learnings. And the thing that I found so inspirational and appealing about this kind of academy was, this is an opportunity to kind of workshop and play around with applying different strategies, and then being in a cohort beside 23 other people with the same goals, and pressure testing, how can I now apply these strategies? How can I now apply these practices? How can I spot equity disparities and search out the root cause of those equity disparities before looking to set the field straight and address and remedy disparities. And it's this incredible learning environment where where else do you have access to a group of 23 peers at similar spaces in their career, who are all looking to advance and who are all looking to build a better, more effective, and more inclusive system. And I think that that's an experience that's really, really difficult to replicate. And I think being able to now go, in your own organizations, as you seek to develop programs or launch partnerships or add new services, having a Rolodex of 24 people who you can cut right through the fat with and immediately say, cool, how do we start implementing meaningful changes for the purpose of helping folks in the Detroit region and changing policies that are not working and causing harm within the system, is a really incredible opportunity. I think it's worth noting that the investment of time is significant and requires some planning, but it can be done, as evidenced by Aspen leading these academies for a decade plus. The investment is 2 3-day offsite retreats. We just booked the St. John's Resort, which looks really great and apparently has good food, so that's an added perk. 4 online sessions. And for those, we work with you all to identify guest speakers who have expertise in subjects of interest. So we're really going to be focusing on partnerships. We're really going to be focusing on optimizing employer engagement and making it so that employers aren't just hiring folks, but are enacting policies to advance program participants that are going through workforce programs. And really thinking about understanding the system so that not only can we secure more positive outcomes for the folks that we serve, but also achieve some of that systems level change that we're all looking for. And Derek, I see that you asked about the length of the online sessions. They're typically going to be about 4 to 5 hours. I think we want to take about 10 minutes from every hour for break, and also have a lunch built into that. For the online labs, and those are the spaces in which you work in groups of peers to identify a policy challenge and work to ultimately present to a group of Detroit region stakeholders a series of policy solutions. Those sessions are 3 hours. And then we do 1 in-day in person and 1 reception. And I saw the question that everything is going to be taking place in Detroit. The offsite retreats, those are in person. The final presentation, in which we bring a room full of policymakers together, that's in person. And then there's a networking event that is in June or July. But everything else is done online, and we recognize that access is a big thing here, and are really trying to be as inclusive as possible with how we design this academy. So here's just a snapshot of what a day in the life looks like at a convening based on someone holding up a sign that says -37. It seems like this is a very wintry and cold place, but I don't know the origin of this picture.
This was the opening retreat of the Chicago Academy, where they closed schools for the first time like ever, but everybody made it out to the retreat that day.
That's amazing. But Kimberly, just in response to your question, I think the end goal here is professional development and systems change. And I think if we're bringing together 24 people with the exact same education and lived experience and worldview, then I don't think that we're really doing anyone a favor in terms of challenging existing viewpoints and thinking about systems change. So I think really focusing here on representation from community-based organizations, from government. I know we've had some really uplifting conversations with folks in grassroots organizations and folks with a labor perspective, and even diversity officers from Fortune 500 companies who are saying, like, this looks like a community that seems really, really appealing. So I think, our goal here is to think geographically, think age-wise about diversity, and really be thinking, how do we bring people together who are on the cusp of advancing their career or have already advanced their career, and how do we convene the most dynamic possible community? And would encourage everyone and peers to apply so that this opportunity can be seized upon by the most deserving individuals. Shioki, can you move to the next slide? So I already detailed the fellows commitment. It looks really big and scary here, I'll warn, but 90-minute online orientation, opening 3-day retreat, April 19th through 21st at St. John's. And then we're looking at basically about 7 hours a month of online activities. The Leadership 360 assessment, this was something that raised my level of professional awareness as much as anything that I've ever completed. So I couldn't vouch for any sort of leadership development activity more. An awesome 3-day retreat in which you get to get away from work, get away from family, and focus on personal and professional development. A reception event, and that's recognizing, a lot of the folks who are going to be in attendance here are looking to further their career and make connections with the professionals that will allow them to do that. And then this final stakeholder event, which I think is December 7th, but Shioki, you can correct me on that, in which folks come together and, across 15 minutes, talk about the changes that they think are necessary to deepen the impact of the Detroit region's workforce ecosystem, as well as a little individual work. And that could be, us connecting you to content experts to do a key stakeholder interview, or maybe you want to do a focus group with a community group to pressure test one of your activities. A lot of wiggle room on what those kind of capstone group assignments look like. Shioki, can you advance the slides, please? So I think this is a little bit overkill, but here you can see all of the days. You see we're doing the opening retreat the 19th through the 21st. Then you've got May, June, and July, about 7 hours in each of those months. A consolidated all day on September 12th, kind of wrapping and prepping for the final presentation in October. Doing that fun closing retreat, which is also likely at the St. John's or another equally desirable hotel retreat. And then that closeout on December 7th. Shioki, can you, so fellows profile, kind of the prerequisites is definitely wanting someone that is a part of the local area, from across the ecosystem, folks with decision-making authority, want to be really inclusive of how we define the workforce development system. It doesn't need to explicitly be a workforce development organization. It could be a shelter that provides workforce services. Again, really looking for a diverse array of perspectives. I do think the things that are prerequisites and that where there won't be a lot of flexibility is, we're really looking for folks who are interested in changing and advancing the system, who are committed to achieving greater equity across the system, and really eager for the opportunity to spend some dedicated space across about 9 months working with peers. The application timeline, the application deadline is March 2nd. We're going to be working with the fellow selection committee to make sure that we've got a really great cross-section of the ecosystem that are represented. Fellows are going to be informed of and invited to participate on March 24th. And then, yeah, we do a press release. You go live on our website, and then the big thing is you get like a link to your LinkedIn on the Aspen Institute website on April 4th, which is super exciting and definitely a big deal. And then the application process, Chioki, I believe, is the next slide. All in, it takes, I think, maybe you're looking at an hour or an hour and a half at the absolute most. It's a really simple process. There's an online portal. Worth noting that one thing that you need to navigate with your organization is them covering a $375 cost to participate. In the event that that is an issue, certainly reach out to Chioki or I by email, and we can help navigate that process. But really, you know, the application process is super straightforward. It's getting an understanding of who you are, where you work, what kinds of populations you work with, role and responsibilities, getting an understanding of your goals and what you're hoping to achieve. And then just an understanding of the kinds of partnerships that you're already maintaining, or the type of partnerships you're interested in generating through participation in the academy and all of the associated activities. We do ask for a letter of reference from a supervisor, and that's mainly just, you know, confirming that you're able to step away from the mission critical day-to-day job to focus on your professional development, which is a significant undertaking. And then you just confirming your commitment to participate and having your advisor, your supervisor sign that form. D, Chioki, I know I was talking fast and I'm super caffeinated today. Is there anything that I am missing out on?
I can't think of anything, but I think one thing that or two things that I will flag is in the past, the Workforce Leadership Academy was really focused solely on the city of Detroit. This year, we're intentionally expanding that to the metro region, so Wayne, Macomb, Oakland, because we recognize that the workforce ecosystem does not necessarily have borders. And it's important for leaders from across the region to really be able to connect and learn and advance some really solid practices and policies. So that's one thing that I wanted to kind of note. I think the other thing, this goes back to Derek's question about like, how long is it? Kind of what's the structure when you meet? When I first participated, it was all day on Friday. And while that mentally seems easier to kind of carve out a full day, it was actually pretty challenging given the work responsibilities. So having it broken between 2 days and 1 week, I think the idea behind that is that you're not stepping away fully from your entire workday and or having to go back home and do extra work, right? You still have a time to kind of check your emails, respond to things, have some meetings in the afternoon. So just wanted to flag those two things, but I think that is it on my end. I think it's now time for us to kind of overview the application, the two-step process. So Alex, I think this is you.
Yeah, so we are going to also send around this deck. We're going to send around a deck tomorrow morning. I think we might clean it up a tiny bit, and then also send around instructions for applications. But the process is super fast and super streamlined. You can submit a 5-minute intent to apply survey that just generates an application for you in our portal. And then we knew our deadline was March 2nd, but wanted to give you the absolute greatest amount of time. So we made the deadline 11:59 p.m. You can also do both steps the same day. There is the opportunity to upload docs or to check out the CSW website where we have an FAQ. And it's something, you know, if you're saying, you know, I hope my supervisor is down to support this, you can send them the link to that and they can check out all of the details, the benefits. Or if they're, you know, wanting to do a co-call, Chioki and I or D are happy to participate and answer any outstanding questions. So yeah, I won't detail it now, but we're going to send all of this by email, and you could check out the nitty gritty for the email process. And I think from here on out, we are going to do question and answer, and we're also able to stay on the line for at least until 3 o'clock, if not longer, if folks have questions. And Kim, I see your hand up, and you feel free to unmute and to ask away.
Thank you. I'm curious is it like the Aspen folks who are facilitating like the labs and the sessions, and can you give a little bit more insight into like what happens during those labs and sessions?
We are not facilitating. It will be your local team that will be facilitating. And to give an example, even though we're not facilitating, I can tell you what happens, and Chioki and Alex can add to this. So for example, in the sessions, those are the times when you focus in on a specific theme. For example, like employer practices or metrics and meaning around data. It is interactive. It will have guest faculty from the local community as well as around the country, where you will have some advanced reading on the topic. There will be some conversation on the reading and your application of the reading. You'll engage with the guest faculty who will give you some examples of their accomplishments and their challenges and where they're still going. You will be challenged to think about, okay, how does this now apply to my own organization by doing some self-assessment or using some tools. You'll be in conversation and breakout groups with each other, examining that topic and what it could mean for the local system. What else would you add, Chioki?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's while there is definitely the facilitator, so Alex and I and some other staff from CSW might be speaking at some moments in time, the kind of experts might be coming. A lot of it is it is a truly interactive model. So it's when we say hands-on, it is very hands-on in everything that you do. And so there's not necessarily a time where you're just kind of sitting, writing notes and kind of staring off into space. You're like actively taking a concept and then thinking about like locally, how do I apply it to myself? Like, how can we collaborate to apply that concept here? What's the thorny issue that makes it challenging for us to actually advance X, Y, and Z here? That's a great question. And then I saw your question, Elizabeth, about are applicants limited to Wayne, Macomb, Oakland counties? So we recognize that some people might live outside of those tri-counties, but work, advanced work that impacts residents here. So we're really looking for folks that are doing work that impact the workforce ecosystem in those 3 counties. But definitely if there's more nuanced, feel free to either stay on or send myself and Alex a question, because I know part of the challenge with the workforce ecosystem is there's not any clear boundary, right? So sometimes might work in or reside in Washtenaw impacts residents in Wayne County as well, right? So we can definitely have those individual conversations.
Thank you.
The dates, yep. So we have the question of the dates. Let me just do this. I think this is an easier way to do it. Perfect. How do we deal with scheduling conflicts? So there might be a time, right, when somebody has an unmovable scheduling conflict. Part of the reason that this is published ahead of time is that so people can kind of work around it. But we recognize that there might be an instance where somebody has to miss a portion of something or a part of that. And the unique thing about a lot of the sessions being virtual is that we have the opportunity to record, share it with that person. Dee, I'm trying to think if there's any other thoughts that you have on those kind of unmovable conflicts that people might have.
Yeah, absolutely. Life happens. But the reason we publish the schedule up front is that so that you can put them in your calendar. You can identify any conflicts. And if you know a conflict now, let Chioki and Alex know up front so that they are aware. people are expected to participate in everything because small groups and the conversations are structured around you. But we recognize that there are conflicts, and that life happens. So we recognize that throughout the year. One key thing is that sometimes portions of the sessions are recorded, but in general, they are not recorded. They are live and they are protected space. Because we're asking you to kind of come into Vegas as you're discussing the challenges with your organizations, your own personal leadership, and your systems. And so there will be portions that might be recorded, but in general, they are live. So you will not be able to count on just watching a recording to be able to get the experience of the sessions. So that's another reason why we publish the dates up front.
I think I see Marnita.
Yes, what if your organization supports you going, but they can't, the budget is not there because the way the budgeted system goes for the organization, and you just want to pay for it yourself, but the organization supports it, is that okay?
So we would not want you to pay for it yourself. We recognize that there's some large organizations that have significant professional development budget that they can just kind of easily throw $375 at. Other organizations are smaller. So that's definitely a conversation with us. And we do have scholarships available in that instance, but having the support and kind of sign off from the organization, that's critical for somebody to be able to participate.
Yeah, I was just saying, having the support, but they don't have the budget.
Yep. Yes, but we would not want
Okay.
you to pay for it out of pocket. Yeah. Great question.
Is there anything else that would be helpful in preparing folks to take this back to their org, or just things that could help inform your decision to apply? Karen has asked which meetings were half days. So May 9th, June 11th, June 11th, and October 10th. Those are all half-day sessions. And then May 11th, June 15th, June 13th, and October 12th. Those are less than half of the day. Those are about 3 hours total. So you should be out if we kick off at 9, should be out 11:30 or 12.
That would be helpful if it was added to the frequently asked questions or somewhere right there, because that'll be helpful for, I know, my leaders to know how long I'm gonna be away.
Cool.
If-
We'll update. That's a really great suggestion, and we can update the website and even update the deck before we send it out tomorrow. Is there anything else? And also, if folks want to stay on and just kind of ask small group questions to Chioki and I, we don't have any place immediately to go, so happy to stay on as long as you want to chat. Well, if not, thanks.
Sorry, this is Dave Derbyshire. So if I understood it correctly, the sessions are half day online and the labs are 3 hours online. Is that correct?
Yep.
And then, of course, the December 7th is in person.
December 7th is in person, and I don't think that's an event that would last more than 90 or 120 minutes. I do think we probably want to make some space for networking and also just for celebrating the achievement of completing the Leadership Academy, but that's not a half day event or anything resembling that.
Yeah, it's about a half day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's both like a graduation and also a sharing of the collab stakeholder events. And to Dee's point about life happens, I missed mine because I had a baby the day before. So I heard it was great though.
I still don't know why she couldn't have brought the baby, but
I know.
yeah.
They wouldn't discharge me. I had the poor hospital protocol. So we'll follow up with everyone tomorrow with this, along with the times added to that. That was a helpful reminder. And again, if you guys have any questions, please reach out, and we look forward to seeing wonderful applications. And the other thing, share with your, other folks in the field. We want to make sure that this is well known to a large cross section. So
Thank you.
thank you.